Hey parents and coaches, are your kids using the right glove? The most important skill for youth athletes to learn is how to play proper catch. The problem is, most youth gloves are made with bad leather and are too big for small hands. They actually make it harder to play catch. That's why former Major League Baseball shortstop Kevin Smith created Cali gloves. Cali gloves are crafted from 100% Japanese kip leather and are the perfect size for kids. All Cali gloves come with palm slits, finger loops, and elastic wrist lacing that encourage proper hand placement, the right closing patterns, and give kids more confidence to go make plays. Cali gloves even allow parents to break in the glove without stretching out the fit. It's the glove Kevin wishes he had growing up, and the glove all his teammates want for their kids. Visit caligloves.com to learn more and help your kids play better catch. That's Cali Gloves, Kali gloves.com.
Welcome to this week's edition of the Dugout Dish podcast. I'm Andy Kirikides, joined by my wonderful co-host, Mr. Keith Glasser. How we doing?
Great. How are you?
Special guest on tonight. Super special guest. I'll leave it to you for the intro, but she's a woman who had greatly impacted both of us while we were at Marist, and we're super excited to have her on. But why don't you give the rundown here, Coach?
Sure. Very excited for our guest tonight. Saved me from not graduating almost 20 years ago, to date myself. But tonight we're joined by Associate Athletic Director and the Director of Student Athlete Enhancement at our Marist University, Miss Alyssa Gates. Alyssa, thank you for being on our podcast.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. I am honored, and it's so great to see you both. It's been a very long time.
It has. It's been way too long. But before we get going, if you could just give our listeners a rundown of what you do before we start peppering questions at you and have a blast on this podcast with you, that would be great.
Absolutely. So as Keith mentioned, I am the Associate Athletic Director for Student Athlete Enhancement, which is a really long and unnecessary title, but essentially what it means is that I oversee academic support services for all 640 of our student athletes. So we are providing them with academic support. We also do life skills development. So the idea is that we're developing the holistic student athlete and giving them exposure to different opportunities, whether it's leadership or mental health, nutrition. While our staff doesn't provide all of those things directly, we are getting them to the right resources to make sure they're taking advantage of those things. And then most importantly, we are helping them with the academic balance and the athletic balance so that they are going to be able to remain eligible, be successful in their coursework, and make sure that they are accessing the resources that are available to them to be successful in the classroom.
Yeah, it seems like things have evolved since we were there. I think when we were there, it was more strictly like the academic piece. And it's pretty cool to see that you guys have decided to kind of branch out and broaden that support for student athletes. I mean, you hit the mental health part, and I think that when we were playing and when we were there, that just wasn't a focus, and I think it's become a focus recently. And I think it's really awesome that the school itself has really worked to try to provide a broader level of support, because, and I'm sure we're going to get into this, but most student athletes, whether it's at Marist or any other school, they don't go and make money playing sports. And the skills that you develop in staying on track with the eligibility, and it's such an important piece of what happens on campus. And we talk a lot about getting to school and how to get recruited, and helping families manage that portion of it. But what happens when you're on campus can really impact what your experience is. And you played a huge role in that for us. I know that just even just the simplest stuff of helping us set up our schedules, like it's such a huge piece of the puzzle, making sure that we stay on track. But it's really cool to hear that you guys have really broadened what you do and the support that you provide the athletes.
Yeah, I mean, in the past, it was, working closely with the counseling center and making sure that the student athletes could access those resources. And more recently, it's become a student athlete wellness group that was created a couple years ago by a student athlete who just wanted to bring together her peers and talk about mental health and wellness and provide training and resources to one another, anyone that was interested in doing it, to current day where we have a counselor in athletics. So he works within the counseling center on campus, but he is the main point of contact for the student athletes and the coaches when it comes to mental health. And he's doing workshops and doing team related things. And some things are more sports performance based, but some things are more one-on-one mental health support. So it's been a really great evolution of providing those resources. We always could use more. It's definitely not enough to have one person devoted to 640 student athletes. I can attest to that. But I certainly think we're on the right track with providing that extra level of support because, our student athletes need it and they're balancing a lot.
I think it's a lot more than people realize, the life of a student athlete. And in some ways it's really good because it provides a lot of structure. But on the other side of it, you have responsibilities to your team, you have responsibilities to yourself, and it can get overwhelming. And having someone like yourself and the folks that work with you that can provide that guidance, like it's such a key piece of getting kids through successfully. And it's good to see that a lot of schools seem to be, specifically at the Division I level where some of the resources might be a little bit greater. This seems to be more the norm, where I don't know if it was 15 or 20 years ago. I think it was more like, here's the support, make sure that you graduate on time, when this is more the ideal, where it's a broad list of selections and support that you guys can provide. And do you feel like the athletes take advantage of it?
Yes and no. It depends on what it is. We try to really focus on the NCAA has these core guarantees that they really want you to provide to student athletes. And it's, everything from career readiness to, again, mental health and nutrition, NIL education, leadership opportunities, diversity, equity, and inclusion. And so I think one of the things that we launched this year in my office was this program called Red Fox Ready. And it allowed our student athletes to engage in these different components of the core guarantees and really empower them in that holistic development. So we do try to really focus on career readiness, and we partner with the Center for Career Services. And we have had opportunities to do other types of, time management workshops, leadership opportunities. I think the fall is always tough because, for many of them, it's their first time in college or, they're trying to kind of get acclimated. And so I think our engagement is not as great as I would like it to be. But I think we're finding from our colleagues at other schools that that's pretty common, right? There's just a lot of apathy, and students want something that's going to be quick and easy and something they can access on this thing really fast. So they're not necessarily wanting to come sit through a workshop. And particularly in their first or second year, they don't see the value of that right away. They're like, oh, I don't have to worry about having a resume or a LinkedIn page. I don't need to worry about that right now. I'll do that junior year or senior year. I don't need to go to that career fair or that alumni networking event. So it's hard. It's hard to get them to see the value of things, but we're doing things. We're putting things out there. We're offering opportunities for them because it's important for us, to have them leave Marist better than they came.
Yeah, I think it's interesting because Andy and I were talking about this today, and again, my wife is going to be less than impressed with me. I don't know. Well, I know that we probably had career fairs when I was at Marist, but I never attended one. I didn't know how to write a resume. I didn't know how to do any of that stuff. And obviously LinkedIn and all like the social media stuff really wasn't a thing. Facebook was the only thing around when we were all in college, right? But I find it so interesting how, like, listening to you talk and then reflecting on the kids that I coached at RPI, where like it's completely different and I get like it's higher end academic, it's it's things like that. Not that Marist is a bad school, we're graduates, but it's those kids want to do some wild stuff when they graduate, and they have a really good idea of what they want to do at 17, 18, 19, 20 years old, where I think for us, it's, you'll figure it out. Like your job is to play college baseball in our sense and go to school, and you'll kind of figure it out along the way. And I that's a hard mindset to kind of break, because I don't necessarily know if that's changed at all, over the last 15 to 20 years. But like, it is interesting to me that like we didn't have any of that. And I think the fact that that is available to students, especially student athletes, is huge, because like when Andy and I were talking about it, like you have to have a plan at some semblance of time when you graduate. Like you can't just get to graduation and be like, nah, I'll figure it out. Like I knew I wanted to coach, right? So like that was a little bit easier of transition for me, because I dealt with Heels and Tom Shanley, who was there at the time, and I ended up with my first job through Tommy Shanley, and then it just and then Heels got me my first job. Like, kind of snowballed from there. So it was a little different. Like, the coaching world is a little bit different, but if I was looking to go be a teacher or something else, like I never even went down that path. And I don't even know what, like, I'm sure the resources are there, but I don't even know where I would have started. And I look back on it and I reflect on that. And like, it is bizarre to me that like at 21 years old, I was just like, meh, we'll figure it out. I'll move to Alabama and just start coaching and, fly by the seat of my pants and see what happens. And like, that's like, it worked out for me, but I wouldn't necessarily say that that's the best route to go through your college years in you should be taking advantage of these things that they have, because I think it adds value to what you can do. And you can actually, the earlier you can start to figure out whether or not this is what you want to do, the better off you're going to be. Because, how many people do we know that they graduated, didn't really have a clue. And then within the first 3 years, like, I hate this job, I want to do something else. And then, you kind of rather figure that stuff out along the way while you're in college, when, you're allowed to kind of screw up a little bit and figure out what you like or don't like. But no, I think that's awesome.
Yeah. And I think, there's a couple things. I think a lot of times our athletes assume that someone's going to help them out. Someone's going to connect them with somebody and help them get a job. And so, in your case, that's how you had to do it, right? It's coaching. And,
right.
And there's a lot of industries and fields where, who is really going to be helpful, but you can't rely on that. And you can't just sit back and hope that lands in your lap. And so, we really want to be proactive and help them figure out, hey, as a sophomore, like, where should I start looking at internships so I get that job experience? Who can I connect with now that's going to help me down the road? And so one of the goals of this program that we're doing is to try to help them kind of build this virtual resume that's not a real resume, but it tracks kind of who they've met in their experiences doing this program and what skills they're taking out of, whether it's a workshop or a speaker that they went to see or an alum that they met up with. And so it's hard to get them to understand, because again, they're 18 and 19 years old and they can't see to 22 yet. They're just not there yet, developmentally. So trying to get them to see big picture things is really challenging, especially if they assume that somebody is going to just connect the dots for them when the time comes, and someone's just going to hand them a job or a contact or an in, because they know somebody who knows somebody. And so that's one of our challenges. It always has been. I just think there's a little bit of this entitlement that comes with being an athlete, particularly an athlete at this level. And we find that too, they want to do things the quickest way possible. And that is not quick, because it takes time to make connections and to build relationships. And so they don't want to do things that aren't quick. They want to do things that are, just going to get them from point A to point B as quickly as possible. So you have to sell it. You really have to sell the whole experience to them, which I am not in sales and not very good at it.
The instant gratifications, we deal with that too, right? And we were guilty of it. Like, sure. And this isn't one of those things like, oh, we had it, like Keith was talking, like we didn't have it figured out. But I can tell you now at 41, I would tell my 20-year-old self, like, dude, start preparing. Mm-hmm. Because it doesn't hurt. Mm-mm. Right. And, you're talking about making those connections. Well, sometimes those are those connections you make because you decide to show up. Mm-hmm. Or you go to that speaker and you go, oh, wow, all right, that's something I could actually dig my teeth into, and something I could see a career path and making
Yeah.
those connections. Like the alumni base at Marist is, I mean, shoot, how many you've had thousands of athletes, thousands, and I'm sure you're a phone call or an email away from a lot of them. And if you have a student athlete who comes up to you and says, "Hey, I'm really interested in, like some specific sort of marketing," like you probably have somebody in your
Yeah.
Rolodex that you can say, "Hey, why don't you reach out to this person?"
Yes.
And
Yes.
I think you can get stuck in it as an athlete because you're so focused on what you're doing in the moment.
Yeah,
And
for sure.
it doesn't hit you until somebody tells you, like, you don't get to dribble the ball anymore, or you don't get to swing the bat anymore, when you go, "Oh, wait a minute. Now I got to figure out what the next phase of this is." And when you're sick, we deal with this with the players. Like, they want instant gratification in the recruiting process, but sometimes you have to work at it to get to the recruiting portion. We say all the time, like, you need to be recruitable before you can get recruited. And usually that means where you are now versus where you need to be. There's time and effort that is required of you to get there. And it's no different what you're talking about, that you have to put in some of the effort and you have to show up. Like, showing up's not hard. You do it every day at practice. You do it every day at class, hopefully. And I would encourage, there's parents and players who listen to this all the time. Like, when you get to campus, seek out these opportunities. You can't start too early.
Nope.
And the reality is, and the NCAA has these commercials that they'll play during the bowl games in the NCAA tournament, where we major in more than just sports. And it's like, well, yeah, you have to, because I don't even know what the percentage is, but a really extremely low percentage of athletes who play college sports will make money playing the sport that they play in college. And I could not encourage people more, looking back on it, having coached for a decade, having played. You get these resources, like, you need to take advantage of them. And it's not just staying on track to graduate. It's all this supplemental stuff that you're talking about that I think can just have a massive impact on the long-term outcome, as opposed to worrying about, well, shoot, like, I only got 4 hours, Thursday night. Like, I don't want to go to some seminar at 1:30, but that seminar might be the thing that gets you a foot in the door for an internship, or maybe you make a good impression and that ends up leading to a job. And I think when you start to look at it through that lens, you look at those resources that you guys are providing now and you go, yeah, I should probably take a little bit of time and see what they got.
Yeah, and that less than 1% that's going to get to go and play after college in some capacity, they're eventually going to have to figure out life, most likely, as well. So even that small percentage that's going to get a chance to play is going to really need to be able to have their backup plan, or their post professional sports plan. And I think one of the things that would really helps us is when we have coaches who are willing to step up and say, hey, this is valuable, this is important. And coaches are one track minds, right? They have to worry about wins and losses and keeping their players healthy, and dealing with all of the fun things that are going on in their seasons and in their off seasons. But if they can just kind of reiterate how valuable a program is, or if I come to practice and I talk about, hey, we're doing this event, we'd love to have you come. If I could just have them reiterate how important that is, and that they support it, that can make a world of difference too, right? There's a big difference between me going to practice and talking to a coach who's like on their phone the whole time, and then when I'm done, it's just like, all right, thanks, we're moving on to the next thing. And a coach who's like, hey, you know what, Miss Gates is really, really doing some good things here, and we want to encourage you to get there. In fact, next week's event, I want all the juniors and seniors to go. It's going to be required. It's going to be mandatory. Those little things go a long way if you have the support of your coaches.
Yeah, absolutely. You take a minute and kind of talk about the student athlete life in terms of, it's more than just being that athlete portion. Like, and you've got this whole academic piece that you need to take care of. And I know that that's a world that you're, embedded in. And, we were talking before we started recording about, scheduling and planning and 15 credits versus 12 credits and like how that kind of trickles down and talk a little bit about that. And then I'd actually really love to hear about, you've seen so many kids go through this. You've seen me and Keith do it personally. You've seen thousands of kids do it. What are the commonalities you see between people, the student athletes that are really successful and the ones that kind of stumble their way through college?
Mm-hmm. So I think it depends on a lot of factors, right? Their academic preparedness coming into college. I've met with so many different students over the years, some of whom went to high schools where they didn't have to do a heck of a lot academically because they were good athletes. And some who were so, rigid in their academic pursuits that they oftentimes feel like they're not being challenged at Marist. So all different ends of the spectrum. And the ones who have really not had to be challenged prior, they can't believe that they have to go to class and they have to do their work. And it's not one of those places where you're just not going to be able to not have to go and you're going to get an A. You have to go. And so it really comes down to finding the right major and the right program for them. And all of our programs are challenging. So there's really no easy major at Marist. So where you may be able to find something at another school that, you can get students through, none of them are like that. I mean, there are definitely ones that are harder than others. But it's really challenging no matter what program you take at Marist. And so it's finding the one that's going to work best for that student, knowing what their challenges are. For baseball players, what that season is like, and it's intense and it's long and it's a lot of travel. So, we don't tell a student athlete on the baseball team, you can't do biology. We don't tell them that. But we have long conversations about what that's going to look like and how they are going to be so far behind their other classmates if they are in that program and missing classes and the work that they're going to have to put in to that major outside of just the regular day-to-day stuff that they'd have to do as a regular student. So those are conversations that happen often because you always have students picking majors that maybe they haven't done a lot of research on, or they don't really understand, or they think is a catch-all. The students that come in and just, I'll do business. Business is like, that's fine. I can get a degree in business. Yes, you can. But did you know our business program is pretty analytical and quantitative? So you're going to have to do a good amount of math and econ and accounting and financial management and things that you may not be particularly strong in. Do you know what the requirements are? And so a lot of times they don't think through those things. And, we know that the major doesn't define you. Your degree doesn't define you. You can do a lot of different things. But it's making sure the students that want to be teachers or want to go to med school are in the majors that are going to help them get there, as opposed to having to start all over again after they've gotten a 4-year degree in English or a 4-year degree in communications. So those are really important conversations. And we really just want to make sure that they understand what they're getting themselves into and that they understand the rigor of the program that they're going to be in, particularly with their sport. There are some sports that can manage those majors, those challenging majors better because they're not gone, for the first 4 weeks, like a baseball player is. And they have a little more time on campus to meet with professors or to meet with tutors. And so those are the things that I think right up front, we have to have really important conversations about. And then understanding like what kind of load they can carry with the credits. So it's 15 credits each semester, ideally, so that you can graduate with 120 credits at the end of 4 years. But times have changed and people may be staying extra semesters or extra years and have, extra years of eligibility. So we might be able to spread those credits out a little bit or stretch it out. But knowing that if they are only in 12 credits, they can't withdraw from a class because then they wouldn't be full-time and eligible. So in some cases, our baseball players want to take less credits in the spring because of the travel and just, the rigor of that particular semester. So they may take a summer class just to stay on track or a winter course just to stay on track. So those are conversations that we have, well ahead of time. I don't, ever want to see somebody have to drop something and then be ineligible. And so those conversations can be difficult when you have, the caseloads that we're working with. But fortunately, we have a lot of good systems in place where we can make sure that they have to check in with us before they drop a class or change a major, or do something that's going to impact them. So those systems will catch those students, even if they're not regulars in our offices, so that we can make sure that they're not doing anything that's going to cause them any kind of academic delay or eligibility issue.
The major change. That's one that I think that as a student athlete, you assume like, oh, I can just change my major, but there's a lot of trickle down effect with the courses that you need to take in order to be eligible there. And, having someone like yourself be able to guide through that and help kids make good decisions. I mean, I'll simplify it a little bit, but it was always a big thing in the spring for us. To your point, we were traveling the first 4 or 5 weeks. You're leaving Thursday morning. So you're not going for 5 weeks. You are not going to be at a Thursday or a Friday class. So how do you handle that? You have to sometimes take a class in the fall a semester early than you normally would, or you have to be really communicative with your teachers ahead of time where they understand like, hey, I'm going to miss these. And I ran into that with a teacher that I was in who wasn't as accepting of me being a baseball player and made it very difficult on me. But, those are important things. And that workload, especially your freshman year, it's no athlete has ever had to do what they're being asked to do that first year they're on campus. So that spring is new. And you just think, oh, I'm going to play baseball. It's like, well, you're forgetting that, when you fly down to Louisiana on Thursday and you get back at 2:00 in the morning on a Sunday, you need to get up and go to your 8 a.m. class on a Monday morning. And what those expectations are. And I think that can trip people up, just not understanding the level of commitment that's required. And you personally helped me dodge some of those bullets when I was setting up my schedule for my junior and my senior year to be able to look at me and go, hey, you shouldn't take this class. Like, why don't we look at this section? Or maybe we this one to next fall and you take this one here. Like, it's such an impactful conversation. And for kids who don't take advantage of this, it just doesn't make any sense to me, especially looking back on it, because you're there to make their lives easier.
Yeah. Where we can. Yeah, we try. And I think, you'll still get a student athlete here and there that's like, oh, sweet, I'll take this class on Thursdays and I'll miss it for the first 4 weeks. And you're like, no, that's not a good plan. And it's like, oh, I'll get the notes, or, I'll get a tutor. And I'm like, you can do those things too, but it's the time in the classroom that you're missing that is really valuable. And, I'm putting on my professor hat right now because I teach a class, and it's hard. It's hard for a faculty member who has the same student athletes that are constantly missing the same days of the week. And it's like, okay, I can continue just teach the lesson and hope they figure it out. But, if you care about your students, you're going to want them to be just as caught up and knowledgeable as all the other students in your class. And you have some faculty members who will go above and beyond to try to support our student athletes, and meet with them and offer extra sessions or extra help. And then some that are just like, yeah, too bad, so sad, you better figure it out. But it's trying to teach those student athletes that what you're missing in person is valuable, and you just getting the notes from a classmate isn't going to make up for that. In some courses, it might be okay. It might be enough. But in courses where there's a lot of discussion or a lot of group work, or in-class conversations or debates, those are valuable things. And so I can empathize with professors and their frustrations. And I also have our student athletes who, don't always understand why it's like such a big deal. And we don't really have the luxury of having them like just not schedule classes on Thursdays and Fridays. It doesn't work. You all remember that. Thursday attaches to another day and Friday attaches to another day. So the class that meets on Friday also meets on Tuesday, and the class that meets on Thursday also meets on Monday. So you can't just like avoid those 2 days altogether. And so trying to get them to understand that they're going to have to do more. And it doesn't make sense to them because in the spring, they're like, when do I have time to do more? You have to go above and beyond. You have to meet with that professor more often. You have to try to supplement the conversations and the discussions that are going on in some way, shape, or form. If there's a way someone could record the class for you, those are other things. And now with technology, as long as the professor is okay with it, there's a lot of other things that we can do. So they're not necessarily missing all of the components of the class, but it can be challenging. It can be challenging because the other piece too is we look at the college student athlete experience as like a pie, right? So you slice it into threes, and it's academics, it's athletics, and then it's your social life. And they have so many times a week that they're practicing, hour requirements, they have travel, they have weights, they have film, whatever. And then they have all of their courses. And then we're like, oh, and don't forget to come to this event that we're having. Oh, and don't forget, you should join a student government, or you should join a club, or try to make other friends outside of your sport. Like when are we doing that? Oh, and going to the extra help and going to see the tutor. And so we ask a lot of them, and, they're trying to do all of that in season as well.
I also think it's, and not to sound old, but it's also part of the agreement with being a student athlete, right? Like, and I think it's something that, having coached for so long and been a student athlete, it's fair to say, like, there are some times where, like, yeah, you might not go to a workshop you should, or a class or whatever. But, like, it's also part of the agreement. Like, you have to go to class. You have to stay eligible. You have to, those are, like, I remember getting off the bus. I can't remember what year it was. I remember getting off the bus at 5 o'clock in the morning on a Sunday. And I had like 4 Monday classes. And it was like, all right, well, I guess I'm going to not sleep and just go hammer through this day with a night class included. Like, I was a zombie by the end of the day. And then you got to wake up and go lift at Tuesday morning, and then go to practice and go to class and do these things. And I think it's, I get the sentiment sometimes of like, when am I supposed to do all this stuff? But at the same time, like, this is kind of the contractual agreement that you entered into in being a scholarship student athlete, or just a student athlete at said school. It doesn't matter if it's Marist or anywhere else. Like, this is what it is. Like, this is why you get to get into college early. Like, that you're getting into early. This is why you get scholarship money. This is why you get to travel and have, like, no one else gets excused absences. You get excused absences to do these things. So, like, the other part of that agreement is, like, you don't just get to do whatever you want when you want. Like, it's sometimes you have to show up to these things, whether you like it or not. And that's like, and I also think it's part of the world. Like, you're going to leave this place and go into the world. Like, yeah, you're going to have to go to things you don't want to go to. That's just life. Like, learn to deal with it now and figure out how to get around these, not to get around them, but get through them. And I think that they're like, I get the sentiment. And like, I think I remember what I was like when I was in college, and I was probably very similar to these types of kids. But like, I look back at it from a coaching standpoint, and it's like, I'm preparing you to be a better human being leaving here than when you entered here. Yeah. And some of these things, you might find value in things that you might not think are there. Yeah. And I think the old adage is true from a coaching perspective too. Like, it's not for everyone. Like, not all these workshops are for everyone, right? But like, if you hit 40% of the people that went there and they find it valuable, like, that's 40% of people. Like, if there's 100 people, that's 40 people that we just helped. And you can probably find some semblance of value where it's going to come back at some point in time in your life where you're like, I remember that workshop I went to. Yeah, like, this is similar to that. But I push back on the notion sometimes with kids, especially when I was coaching, of like, I don't see the value in this. Like, yeah. Like, for you as a senior right now, it's probably not that valuable, but for our freshmen, it is. And that's why I need you there to do X, Y, and Z. Just like when seniors would, freshmen come into your office and like, they're like, oh, I'm struggling so tough. Like, this class is so tough. And then by the time they're senior, like, Andy's struggling in Calc 100. Like, I mean, I could get an A in that class. Like, yeah, 4 years ago, dude, you sat across my desk crying because you had a D and couldn't figure out how you were going to get out of this class. Like, how quickly we forget. But I just think it's part of the agreement for people that are listening, if you want to go play in college, like regardless of the level, like this is part of the agreement in being a student athlete. And I do think sometimes, I look back from a coaching perspective and I look back from like when I was a player, you are asked to do a lot, but it's also like you're the face of the school in a lot of instances, and you're the people that will actually go do, like, I remember setting up for graduation for 4 straight years. Like, I know Heels wasn't too thrilled about it, but like, there was no one else on campus. We got to do it. You had Robbie Ryan out there setting up, obstructed view seats behind trees. But like, it was fun at the same time. Like you got to get out with your teammates and do stuff, and that wasn't the normal practice, baseball, and extracurriculars that you would partake in.
Yeah, I think you have
working for Randy on the side.
Yes,
working for Randy.
Yes, absolutely. This is the best job on campus.
Absolutely,
because you're going to learn things that I always say this. Working for him, you're going to learn things that are going to prevent you from having to hire someone to do that job, because now you know how to put that together, or you know how to fix this little plumbing issue. Like, that is the best job on campus. But all of the things that, they have a hard time with, I don't want to do this. It's all teaching them something, right? And that Monday where you all overloaded your schedules because you were coming back from travel and you had to get as many classes on Mondays as possible, it sucked. It was awful. It was a long, grueling day, but it taught you how to power through. It taught you adversity. It taught you how to face challenges, and, it made you better. It made you better. And so it's hard for them to see that when they're in it, but eventually, hopefully they do, just like you all.
Yeah. And I think a lot of kids who are like aspiring to be be college athletes, they're in love with the idea of it. But what we're talking about is so relevant to Keith's point. Like, this is what you sign up for when you want to be a student athlete. You don't sign up to not go to class. If that's what you're doing it for, you're probably not there for the right reasons. Like, if you're just there to be an athlete, you better be one of that 0.5% or 0.01% that is going to go and make a ton of money playing a sport. But the reality is that's, especially a school like Marist, it's just not the reality for kids who go there. And you sign up for all of this. And to your point, like, you learn so much along the way, right? The time management, like, we used to practice at 9:00 at night.
Yeah.
And the whole idea was, well, nobody's got an excuse to miss practice.
Yep.
Because there's no classes going on. I mean, I remember walking from a night class when we were practicing indoors. Like, you'd get done with your 6:30 to 9:00 night class. And we used to take those because there's only one day and it was 3 credits. And you'd walk from Lowell Thomas. I had this class with George Heath. We would go get a big bottle of water and we'd walk to class. We'd walk from class to practice and go and practice for 3 hours. Like, that's stuff that you kind of get to do. And the funny thing is like, you get some awesome stories out of this stuff.
Move the bleachers, move the hoops.
Yeah, we did.
Pull the cages out. You really only need 2 guys.
Yeah, jeez. Unbelievable.
Yeah, all the physical labor y'all have to do. I mean, they still do it, like they're tarping the field, they're raking, they're doing all of it. It's unfortunate in some ways, but it also is like, man, that's teaching you something, man.
Yeah, you got to show up. Sometimes you got to get your hands dirty a little bit, and
and you don't take it for granted. You know what I mean? Like, this is your product. Like, you are part of all components of it. So you have a little bit more investment in it, in my opinion.
Yeah. I get a question for you around the technology piece.
Oh boy. Okay.
We had, obviously everybody went through the whole COVID thing where a lot of stuff was being done online. I know it happens in some of the bigger conferences where the default is just take a virtual class, right? That's kind of a unspoken secret out there that a lot of student athletes at the highest level, they're taking a lot of virtual classes. Is that something that Marist is offering at this point still? Or have we kind of gotten back to most of this stuff is going to be in person? Or do they have a little bit of a hybrid approach where maybe a baseball player is able to take more of a virtual class in the spring to kind of account for, the travel that is, and I think for baseball, you travel more than any other sport.
Yeah. We are we've been kind of back to normal with classes. I think, our approach has always been, we want people in person. We want to be able to have those in the classroom interactions. We do have some online courses, but they're mostly our liberal arts courses that people can take, as a fifth class or as a fourth class. There's never an intention that they're going to be fully online. We do have programs that are set up for people that want to come back and finish degrees, where that can be done online. Those are our professional programs. But for the most part, everybody's doing everything in person. And, I would say 95% of our major courses are all offered in person without any online option. So I think when we first returned, or I shouldn't say returned, when we first kind of like started going back to a normal semester, I think there were some faculty members that were just like, I can't make it in today. Let's just do it online. Or I'm not feeling like driving to campus. My commute's 45 minutes. I'm just going to do it online. And deans and the provost office were quickly like, nope, you're not doing that. Like, that's not what we're here for. We're back to the way things were. There are some faculty that are still doing it depending upon who their boss is and who they report to. But the message has been very loud and clear that we are in person. And if you are having an issue getting to campus, you cancel class. You're not really supposed to rely on a remote opportunity.
No, I think that's good to hear. I mean, I think when you're on campus, being there is important. There's whole schools that have online, degrees that's what they do. And that's what they, Southern New Hampshire, I know, is really big into that. Liberty is another one where, a big portion of what they do academically is remote by design. But if you're a student athlete, go to class, go meet some people, get some face time with the professors. I think it makes a huge difference.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Make those connections. Obviously we hope they're making friends outside of, their fellow athletes and connecting with others in the classroom. But it's been really good to have that kind of messaging and to that, is kind of the policy now. It's just expected that we're going to be in class. So, and I think for the most part, the students understand that. I don't get a whole lot of like pushback in the first couple of years after COVID, for sure. It was like, can we just be remote? Can we just be remote? Nah, it's not what we're doing anymore. Because we missed that experience, right? Like that's important. And it was really hard for a lot of students to learn that way. And it was hard to teach that way, for sure. So I was very excited to be back in person. And I think, that's the intention moving forward for everything.
Who wouldn't want to walk around campus now? I hadn't been back in a long time until I came back to the first pitch dinner.
Yeah. It's pretty gorgeous.
What's the big deal? Park down in McCann, walk up to, whatever building that you got class in that day. Like, it's just such a, that's part of your college experience, I think, and something that you might not think about it in the moment, but you look back on it and it's like the time you actually spent on campus was, valuable in a lot of different ways.
Yeah. Now our student athletes can park in McCann. They have special stickers. So they can park in McCann, leave their car all day, go do class, whatever they need to do, and no ticket on their car. They have a special sticker.
Oh, that's
a pretty
good.
Nice gig. Yeah.
Yeah, we did not have that.
No, you didn't.
Kenny Anderson will be thrilled to know that.
The amount of tickets that I had to pay in college is not, my mom still hangs it over my head.
Yeah.
Couldn't register for class. Oh, by the way, I have like $120 in tickets.
Yeah. So many financial holds were because of parking tickets back in the day.
Especially especially on a basketball event day. You couldn't even get anywhere near McCann.
Yeah, no, not even if you work there.
It's terrible. I got a hot fire question for you.
Okay.
Put yourself in the shoes of a student athlete, prospective student athlete parent. What are some questions that you would want answered from an academic perspective? So say you're going to sit down with a coach and you're a mother or father. What are some of the things that you think are important for those families to ask to better understand the academic experience and what that looks like?
Yeah, I mean, I meet with parents and recruits all the time, and just they want to know what we offer. They want to know about things that are in place to support their son or daughter as they're, coming in, and how their schedule will be made. That's a huge one. Who makes their schedule? Who chooses their classes? How do they make adjustments if they need to make adjustments? So I walk them through, that process. I talk a lot about what types of resources we have in terms of tutoring and study halls, and how they're advised. So at Marist, they have 2 advisors if they're athletes. They have someone in my office, and then they have their major advisor. And so I kind of explain to the parents the difference and why they would see one over the other, or when they should see both of us. And they also want to ask about, what does life after Marist look like? So, if you are a parent, I would definitely encourage you to talk to folks on campuses about the, postgraduate statistics. Where are students graduating and going? Where are they getting jobs out of college? What are they saying about their experiences? And I always think that the most valuable people on a college recruiting visit are the current players, because they're going to tell you the real deal. We're all selling them a product, and it's not that we're lying, but it's a business conversation. And I think the student athletes on that team are going to give them the real deal. They're going to tell them, hey, Thursdays, the dining hall is not so great, but the rest of the days of the week, it's pretty decent. Or, these are the fun places to go off campus. Or these are the places that you want to stay away from. Like, they're going to tell them all the things that I think are really valuable. What we're saying is kind of valuable. We hope it's going to be something that they, will take advantage of. But I think it's really important for them to just kind of find out, what we're offering, and then what students are getting out of that when they leave. Like, how did that benefit them? Whether it's a specific program that we did, or an opportunity that they had, or just being a student athlete and wearing both of those hats.
Yeah, I think oftentimes the student is tentative to ask some of those questions, and I think they're really, really important. Going back to what we talked about around like having a long-term plan and like playing the long game. Like, if you're at Marist and you're looking to be a business major, like, well, what's that going to get me after this? What does that look like? Do we have tie-ins to internships? What's the job placement look like? I'm looking to be down in New York City at some point. Like, what are the connections that Marist College has there? And I that stuff, I think it matters so much, and they get so fixated on the athlete portion. And honestly, that's the easiest thing to unpack.
Yeah, for sure.
Are you getting recruited heavily? Do you really like the coaching staff? But the other half of that equation is, well, if I'm not going to play professional baseball, what's Marist going to do for me? And being able to understand what that looks like, the resources that you have in front of you. Like, I don't think you can understate what you just said about figuring out what that looks like. And if the coaches don't have those answers, you have those answers, or those coaches should be able to put you in contact with somebody who can give you some of those answers. Like we were talking about at the beginning, like some schools don't have all of this, right? I've coached at the Division I and the Division III level. For us at the Division III level, we didn't have someone like yourself, but we had resources that we could go to. All right, well, this kid's interested in being a doctor someday.
Yeah.
We knew that ahead of the campus visit, and we would make sure that we had a professor on call to be able to say, hey, this is what it looks like to be a pre-med student at this school.
Yes.
And this is the schools that we've had guys and girls go to, post-graduation. And I think that the parents and the students who go into these visits understanding the importance of the whole picture, I think it can help you make such a more informed long-term decision and get you to a place that is going to check a lot of those boxes for you. Because, we were talking about it a little bit before we started recording, but like the transfer portal is a thing now, but you need to know what that picture is, where you're going to be, because in all likelihood, that's where you should probably stay.
Yeah.
And understanding what that looks like, I think it's just really, really important. And most schools have more than people think.
Oh yeah. And I think, the athletic piece is so unpredictable, right? Like we're in a very tumultuous time and the landscape is changing. And so, we talked a lot about how, students feel about their experience. And if they don't get what they want that first year, they're looking to transfer, and it's so much easier than it used to be. So that part of it is really hard to predict, but the other stuff is very predictable, right? Find out about the academics, find out about the resources, meet with a faculty member in your child's maybe proposed major, potential major. If they're not sure about a major, there are people that can talk to them about being undecided as well. So it's meeting the right people on the academic side. It's finding out what other resources are available. It's trying to talk to the people that they may be connected with, because the athletic piece is just something that you kind of can't control. The other piece is whatever is there. Obviously, your child has to take advantage of those things and utilize those resources, but those things aren't going to change. They're probably going to get better, if anything. But with the athletic piece, that can be, again, so unpredictable, and things don't always go as planned. And, the things that may be discussed on a recruiting trip about playing time or, where they see your son or daughter on the depth chart, that could fluctuate, obviously. So I would really focus on the things that you can control.
100%. 100% nailed it.
I think it's things that no one thinks about in the recruiting process, right? Like there's no, like the academic side is so you're not getting recruited to be a student there, right? Like you are. But the vast majority of your questions are going to be centered around whatever sport it is that you're being recruited in. And I think that, the people that do a really good job are the ones that, highlight the academics and the support and the things that we have here for our student athletes. But I feel like it's something that, especially with people who go through this process, it's not at the forefront of their mind, because it's like, well, you can get into school. And I think when people think like, well, you can get into school, like you're just going to kind of easily get through school. And that's not the case for, a lot of people. Like there is a minimum GPA you're going to have to hold, which is low at the Division I level, if it's still what it was 20 years ago. But then there's schools who can supersede that and say like, hey, I know the NCAA is a 1.8, but here it's going to be a 2.2 or a 2.3. And if you're below that, you are not playing. It does not matter. And that's more the Division I level. Division III, there really isn't one. A school can kind of set that. But, I find the dichotomy of it to be weird, because it's like I coached so long at such a higher end academic school that there wasn't really a lot of academic issues that I had to have, right? Like, now, did I have my lifelong study hall guys? Absolutely I did. But it's few and far between, because, once they kind of get in their major, they're so interested in it that it doesn't really, you don't really have to worry about them academically, where, I was well on my way to being a lifelong study hall guy after 2 years of Marist College. And I was
what? I don't remember that at all.
Fortunate enough to get out starting I think midway through my junior year, where he was just like, all right, dude, this is enough. Like you don't go. But I think that what does that look like, right? Like, they're like study hall, I think in some places are, a little laissez-faire where, at a place like Marist, like it's not, you have to actually go in there and do work for 6 hours.
Cracking the whip every day.
Or 8 hours a week, whatever it is. Like, and that's another piece of the time management thing where, you're a student athlete, you have practice, you have lift, you have film, you have games, you're traveling. Like you have to somehow figure out a way to get 6 hours of study hall in. And oh, by the way, you can't just go in there on your off day of no classes and bang out 6 hours. Like that's not how this works. Like you have to find time throughout the course of the day to do that. And it's learning time management, it's learning those things. And I think that it's all of those things. It's like Andy said, you haven't gone through a season, regardless of the sport that you play, like at the college level, where you have to figure this stuff out. And it can get overwhelming fast where it's like, oh my goodness, where do I find, like 6 hours seems like not a lot of time. And then all of a sudden you get to Thursday and you're like, I need to bang out 6 hours of study hall over the course of the next 2 days. And I have no time. Yeah. And, you have to either A, figure it out, or B, wear it that you didn't manage your time. And then that's leads to other issues. But, usually it only takes once. But, I think those are things when you go through the recruiting process as a kid and as a parent, like it seems so easy on the front end and like, oh, he's going to get into school. Like if he can get into school, he can handle it. Like that's not, college is a different beast. And, we were talking about before, like I stand by this. I think college is a little bit tougher your first 3 semesters because you're taking some classes that you don't necessarily have a ton of interest in. You're kind of taking your electives and what you need to get outside of your degree. It gets a little bit easier when you get deeper into your degree because now you're taking classes that you're really interested in, you want to go to. Like I was a history major. I didn't love math and like science was fine, but like I wasn't a huge math guy. I hated going to math class, but like you gotta go. And half of the battle is just showing up.
But think about developmentally where you are in those first few years. So not only are you taking the classes you're not crazy about, but you're not mature enough to handle all the things that are being thrown at you. So you're trying to figure out, how to make friends and how to do the social life stuff. And then like how to balance everything, and coaches yelling at me. And I've always been, the best player on my team, and now I'm not anymore. And how do I manage all of that? And the dining hall, I don't know how to eat right. I'm not sleeping well. So you are figuring all of that out while you're taking the most uninteresting classes. In some cases, you might have 1 or 2 that you like. But you're too immature. So I totally agree with that. And I see the biggest growth always from freshman year to sophomore year, because by the sophomore year, not always the first semester, but by the second semester, it's like, okay, I got this now. It took me 3-4 semesters to get it down, to get in a rhythm. And now I've got these younger guys and girls that I can be like, this is how we do it. These are the mistakes I made. Let's try not to have you go down that path. Or they enjoy watching you struggle because they're like, haha, you have to go through it too, just like I did. But it's 100%, different when you are, in your junior, senior year, and you have most of the time have it together. And for the most part, our athletes are all very academically capable. They can do the work at Marist. It's just all of the distractions and the video games. I'll just say that. Like that is, I'm like, why aren't you doing your work? Video games. Okay. Makes sense. So it's like just all of the things that they have to learn how to do without someone standing over their shoulder. They can sit in study hall for 6 hours a week and do some of their work, but then they're going back to their room and not finishing it because they're playing video games or they're on their phones. So I think those are things that we have to work through is just the maturity stuff, but they're typically all very, very capable. I mean, if they fail out of Marist, it's not because they're not smart enough. It's because they got other stuff going on.
It's the first time that most kids are in a space where they're not having their hand held.
Yeah.
And we're talking about all these resources and all these systems that are in place. They're there.
Yep.
Right. And you get built-in structure as an athlete. And I think that's one of the really valuable things. Like I look back and I think about it at times, like if I just went to college and I didn't play a sport, I have no idea what the hell would have happened because there's so much free time.
Yeah.
You might only take three hours of classes on a Tuesday. You might be done at 11 o'clock in the afternoon, and you don't really have much else to do.
Right.
So the structure is nice, but these resources that we're talking about, nobody's going to force you to use them.
Right.
You have to take advantage of them. Like you don't have mom cooking you breakfast.
Right.
Nobody's waking you up in the morning to go to class. So some of that simple stuff is an adjustment period of, well, if I have an 8 o'clock class, I need to get up before 7:50 to make it. And like,
because it's all the way across campus and it's going to take me, more than 10 minutes to walk there. Yeah. All of those things. Yep.
And it sounds,
or if you live off campus and you're like, you have to park at whatever that old parking lot was and then walk to Fontaine. Like,
sometimes it comes down to literally sitting down with them and saying, okay, we're gonna parcel out every hour of your day, because a lot of times they don't even recognize that they need to give themselves more time. So for instance, okay, practice ends at 10:30. My first class is at 11. That's tight. I get it. But why are you late to your 11 o'clock class? Well, I had to go back to my room to shower. I said, we're going to shower in the locker room. So you're going to bring a bag of things that you're going to pack the night before, and you're going to shower in the locker room. And then you're going to go straight to class, not back to your room, straight to class. And you're going to pack a granola bar and a banana and a water, and you're going to eat after class, not before. You don't have time for all that. So those types of conversations happen a lot now, because I think they're just so used to someone having all of that done for them. But I'm like, it is now your turn to do this for yourself. I will help you figure it out, but I'm not going to follow you around either. So I don't wake you up. I don't come into your room and knock on your door and say, time for class. So you've got to start figuring it out. And then you have some students who just have one full day. Again, your Mondays would have been a great example of this. Like, when am I eating? When is lunchtime? Because I have back-to-back classes. So it's, how do we slip some food in there at some point? And if you have a 12:30 class, is the professor cool if you eat in class, like during the lecture? Is that okay? Let's make sure that works. So yeah, time management is huge for them. And I think that's usually the thing that messes them up the most, because they just don't know how to do it.
No, I think that's one of the hardest things. I mean, you have built-in structure as an athlete. Like, I remember lifting at 6 pretty much our whole career. But it was great because then you could take 8 o'clock class. Like, you're done lifting at 7, shower, go get breakfast, and then go to class. And your day is over by, I don't want to say over because you usually had practice, but like, you're done by 10:30, 11, like, all right, I can go back and eat, and then I can go to practice. And then, okay, now after by 4:30, I'm good.
Yeah.
But I think that, like, it's when you haven't, it takes a little bit of time to get to that adjustment, but like, it's tough.
Yeah.
It really is. And like, I struggled my freshman year with it, especially during the fall. Like, you get out of lift and the leg day and you climb those stairs up from McCann up to Champagne, and like, damn, man, like, I just want to go back and take a nap.
Yeah.
And that's not in the cards.
Your mind and your body are being pushed and challenged more than they ever were. So you are going to be more exhausted. And you have pockets of time in the middle of your day where you probably didn't have in high school. You probably went back to back, class, maybe a lunch or a study hall in there. But for the most part, you were going from 8 to 3 solid. And now you may have a 2-hour break in the middle of the day on Thursday because you don't have a class then. And it's what you do with that pocket of time, because you're going to be exhausted and you're going to want to go nap because you're tired, because you're getting pushed further than you ever have. But can you not nap, or can you nap for 20 minutes and then go do something else productive? Maybe it's study. Maybe it's review your notes for before the next class. Maybe it's make sure that you have met with your tutor, or, you're getting something done that's maybe working a little bit ahead, or getting your study hall hours done. So those are the things that we try to, instill in them. It's like those free pockets of time that you never used to have. Now you have to use them more wisely, because when you try to, at 10 o'clock at night, finally stop, sit down and study, you're exhausted because your mind and your body are not going to be able to manage what they used to be able to manage. You're more exhausted. So you're spent. You can't sit in bed and now study for 2 hours. So do it during the day when you have the free time. That's what study hall's for. It's literally designed for you to learn time management.
I find it, but like, I'm going to sound old here, Andy and Alyssa, but like, it's like, I think now, like watching when I was coaching, like watching what my kids would do and stuff, like, I'm so grateful that we didn't have Instagram or Twitter or Snapchat or any of this stuff, because like I could see myself sitting in the locker room just going down a rabbit hole.
Yeah.
Like when you have 2 hours of free time, like I'm just going to, practice over. I don't have much. I'll shower and then like just sit there and like scroll through social media. And before you know it, it's like, oh, I have to go eat. And then I have like 20 minutes to get to class and eat. Like we didn't have that, which I'm grateful we didn't, because it's like, all right, like we're going to shower and we're going and having breakfast or lunch or whatever. And then I'm going to eat. I'm going to go back down to McCann, do study hall. And then that's going to run me right up to practice. And then I'm done, once practice is over with. Because then at least you feel like you feel productive. Like, practice, class, eat, study hall, lift, or practice, lift, practice, whatever.
We take their phones when they come to study hall. So we take them. But they find ways around it. They have their whatever's on their laptops and whatever. So it's like they're still doing stupid stuff. But I watch them do it in class. Like I'm teaching class and they're just scrolling. And I'm like, oh, this is so frustrating. So yeah, I mean, I would throw them all away if I could. But you are very, very lucky that you didn't have it, and so am I, because it was so distracting, and it is anytime anybody, and we're all guilty of it too, right? Mm-hmm. You're sitting in the waiting room at a doctor's office, you're sitting in the car waiting for picking up your kids, whatever it may be. We're just scrolling because it's there. Yep. We don't know how to just sit with ourselves anymore. So I get it. Like I complain about them, but I'm just as bad. It's just I'm not pulling it out in a class or, trying to,
Maybe you should. When everyone starts doing it, you should just pull your phone out up front and just start scrolling.
All right, class. I'm going to scroll for a little bit. Yeah.
Here's a little cheat code for the parents and the students who are listening to this. I didn't figure this out until I was a junior. I think the 8 a.m. class is a cheat code.
1,000%.
Take the morning class. Mm-hmm. You're going to get up. Mm-hmm. It's never going to interfere with anything that you do athletically. Never. And you'll get your classwork out of the way. And then you don't have those funky pockets of time. Mm-hmm. If you take an 8 and a 9:30, now you're done with class at 10:45.
Yep.
You can go and eat and you can go on with the rest of your day, and you have like this expanded window of time that's easier to be productive in, because it's easy to look at that hour and a half window and be like, well, I can't really get much done.
Right.
By the time I walk down to the McCann Center and I go into study hall, like I'm only going to be able to get 45 minutes in. Like I'm just not going to go. But so those out there listening, if there's student athletes who are in college who are listening to this, take the 8 o'clock class. I promise you, getting up at 7:45 or 7:30 or whatever you do, it's the least of your concerns. Your day will be started. You so much more flexible with your time, and if you're that athlete who the sports is super, super, super important to you, like it opens up the rest of the day. You can go to the training room, you can go to the physio, you can go meet with a nutritionist, you can go get your extra work in. Basketball player, go get shots up. You want to get swings in, whatever it is. It frees up so much time.
Yeah. And if you're a part of a team that has a morning practice and you can't take a class, we have a bunch of teams that practice in the morning. Take the classes right after that, right? Mm-hmm. And I will tell you, when we changed our football practice schedule they used to practice when I first started, they practiced in the afternoon, like 4 to 6 or 3:30 to 5 or something like that. We switched to a morning practice probably 15, 16 years ago. And the amount of missed classes is so much less because they're up already. They're up. So they're far less likely to go back to their rooms and like mess around and then miss their next class. So I think it makes a big difference for anybody to start your day. Again, you don't have to get up at 5 a.m, but if you can start your day at a normal time, and a normal time that you're going to end up having to work at some point in your life, it is so much more beneficial. I think that is a really great tip.
We didn't even discuss the training room as part of your daily routine if you have to get into it. There's a whole
the
other
athletic training room.
A whole other bag of issues of time management.
Yeah, sports medicine, if you got treatment, if you have rehab, like all of that takes up time too. So it's just another
stay
thing.
Out of the training room if you can.
Yeah, if you can, stay healthy.
I loved it good.
Probably sick of seeing my face.
I saw her 2 years ago.
So, well, Alyssa, this has been absolutely fantastic. And I'm really glad that we were able to convince you to come on and talk about this. I think this is a side of the story as a student athlete that probably doesn't get enough coverage. And it's so important for people to understand what the student portion of the student athlete equation looks like. And, like I said at the top, you were vital in both of our lives. And really just happy to see your face and have you on the podcast.
Thank you so much. I adore the both of you. Always have, always will. I'm just so happy that you're doing this and you're sharing your knowledge and your expertise with so many people. It's such an important topic. And, I'm just really honored that you asked me to be a part of it. Thank you.
We would not ask anybody else. I can tell you that. Well, thank you again so much. Hopefully I'm going to be up on campus, or one of us, maybe both of us, will be up on campus this spring. So we'll be sure to.
That would be really nice.
All right. Well, go Red
take
Foxes.
Me to dinner
at Marist University now.
That's right.
Mm-hmm. We upgraded.
We did.
Well, thank you again.
You're welcome.
We really appreciate it, and hopefully we'll talk soon.
Okay, sounds good.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you for listening this week. If you're watching on YouTube, go ahead and hit that subscribe button and smash that like button for us. Check us out on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, as well as Spotify. You can follow us on Twitter and Instagram at EMD Baseball. If you want to find out what me and Keith do to help families and players navigate the recruiting process, go ahead and check us out on emdbaseball.com. Take a few minutes to check out our new online academy. I promise you'll get some good information out of that. Thanks again for listening. Check in with you next week.